What's going on, Chooms? JonJonTheWise here, and I got another Cyberpunk video for you guys. This time we're going to be talking about the final part of my Black Chrome breakdown. I wanted to talk about firearms, the economy, and black markets all on its own because I do feel like they're a very important part of this supplement. But before we get into that, make sure you guys follow me on social media at JonJonTheWise. Everywhere there is social media. Follow me on my podcast, subscribe to my podcast rather. It is Tabletop Cyberpunk. I have more cyberpunk stuff on there. And of course, join our Discord community. The link is in the description below, as well as a link to D10s by ENIFAEL, a really cool dice maker. I get a little bit of a kickback if you use that link. So just like the other sections, I'm going to be talking about some of the items that are within this section, talking about firearms, weapons, ranged weapons. That is because there's so many of them and they run the whole gamut. But I wanted to touch on some really important ones that I think are very interesting and could really spice up your game. First one on my list is the Arasaka Prototype Variable Assault Rifle. It is a super luxury, amazing looking assault rifle. I mean, even just the name itself tells you everything you need to know about it. The idea of this gun is it's an assault rifle. It does what assault rifles do, but it also has this secondary setting that lets you fire a rail gun. Now, anytime you guys have seen rail guns or the rail mechanic in Cyberpunk, usually it has to do with ignoring SP at a certain level and below completely. So it's as if that armor is not there at all. I like to think that somebody would get this assault rifle, whittle down their enemy, and then finish them off with a railgun shot. Next up, we have the Militech Survivalist. It is a crossbow gun. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We're in the dark future. We got crossbows on guns. You can use your archery skill as... The cool thing about this weapon is you can use your archery skill instead of using your shoulder arm skill. So let's say you made some kind of cool archer character, but you still want to feel that feeling of having a gun in your hand. The Militech Survivalist has you covered. So just to touch on the Gunmart brand, you're going to see a lot of those in Black Chrome, but the idea is this is the street level kinds of weapons. This is the 99-cent store weapons that you're going to be getting. The cool thing about them is they're readily available. You can give them to gonks all over the place. And of course, they have a terrible downside when you roll a 1. It makes for really interesting combat if your players are going up against a bunch of Doombas that have some really poor weapons. One of those Gunmart guns, of course, is the Overlord Handcannon. I mean, this thing, it's 100 eddies, super cheap. Anybody can get this. You do one job and you can get this thing. You know, it's a poor quality exotic heavy pistol, so there isn't really much to write home about, but it looks intimidating. And the really cool thing about it is it helps you in your face down checks. So the idea is you got this crazy out of control weapon that looks big and intimidating, and you only paid 100 eddies for it. I think it's a cool interaction to give you some kind of extra mechanic where you're holding a gun, and a specific type of gun gives you +1 to your face downs. And I think it would be cool to use that mechanic on other guns as well. So in your own games, you might homebrew something like that. Here's another Gunmart, the Engage rocket launcher. It introduces a rocket launcher for 100 eddies. But remember, this is a poor quality thing, only capable of firing armor-piercing rockets, and on a critical failure, really, really bad things happen. I think you guys can guess what it is, but just know that you don't want to roll a 1 with this thing. But it is good to know that you could just walk to any corner street and get one of these bad boys if you really need some firepower. Now let's get out of La La Land and get back to the normal stuff. We got Militech Fox dual ammo pistol. This is a 1000 eddy pistol. The really cool thing about it is you can have 2 different types of magazines loaded. If you guys remember, special ammo has to be in its own magazine, so you can't mix and match ammo within one magazine. This bypasses that. You can have 2 different types of ammo. You can switch between incendiary to armor piercing or whatever you need to do in a click of a button. Next up, we have the Militech Mastiff SMG. It's a submachine gun and a shotgun mixed in one. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you don't see far too often, but it's the kind of thing that I would love to see in Cyberpunk. So if you're looking for that kind of aesthetic, this is perfect for you. Next up, we're going to talk about Pursuit Security Inc.'s E-Tack Public Defender. This is the perfect weapon for law enforcement. And it's not just because of its name, it's because of its function. The Public Defender has two features. It has a stun gun and it also has a lethal version. So it's, like I said, perfect for law enforcement. If you need to detain somebody, arrest them, and you don't really want to hurt them all that much, you can use the stun gun setting. Otherwise, you go for lethal force if you need to. The really cool thing about it is it has a subdermal grip connected to a smart link, and it has no trigger. So if somebody tries to steal this off of a police officer, good luck trying to use it. It's not programmed to you, so it's not something that you can use. Next up, I want to touch on the brand Centurian Essentials. Now, the cool thing about this brand is they don't care about substance, they care about style. Everybody's weapon is part of their culture. It's a part of who they are. They probably got a name for it. You got some cool tags on it. And that's what Centurion Essentials understands. They understand that you want to look good and not just be a good killer, but you want to look good doing it. The really cool thing about this gun is when openly worn, you get a +2 wardrobe and style skill check. So it's fun. It's a fun idea. You could think as a game master that they make more than just the javelin, the glam rifle, and the sidearm. There could be all kinds of weapons that Centurion Essentials makes. And so I would use that in my campaign as well. All right, Chooms, next let's talk about the economy of Cyberpunk Red. If you guys have seen any of my past content, I've had James Hutt on my channel to talk about the economy and what it's like in Cyberpunk Red. But to give you an introduction, Cyberpunk Red in the year of 2045 is a year and time and era of not having things, the lack of goods. And that's basically what the economy of Red is all about. James has talked about how it's a trade culture, and if you have a good thing, I need a good thing, let's just trade with each other. And that's why there are categories for the different pricing. I highly recommend you go check out my other video on that, on the economy. But you have Black Chrome, and Black Chrome basically breaks it down for you. In Black Chrome, you get examples of what the red economy is like, and it explains it, breaks it down exactly how you're going to be able to get your goods, haggle for goods, trade for goods, where it's sourced. All those things are important information for your campaign. There's also a really cool DV chart for finding fixers or text depending on what category an item is. So if you see something in a book and you're like, where can I get it? You look at its category price, and then you go to your game master, and there's a difficulty value chart that you can roll against to try to source the information. The book also goes more in depth on lifestyles. That's something that's in the core rule book, you know, the kibble lifestyle, the corporate lifestyle. And it breaks it down even more. It tells you it's like subcategories of things that are going on within that lifestyle. So you can expect what kind of life you live when you have that. For example, in the kibble lifestyle, it's 100 eddies per month. You eat 2 meals of kibble per day. You have an account for your agent. It lets you access the data pool, make calls, and sends texts. That's your communication. For entertainment, once per month, you can enjoy an entertainment option worth 20 eddies. And for transportation, you've got a public transport pass to use the bus and subway. Once per month, you can catch a taxi as long as it is to and from an area with a moderate corporate or executive threat level. So as you can see, it lets you know what kind of things you can do in your lifestyle. And if you guys haven't seen the core rulebook, the way lifestyles work is you buy into it in the beginning of the month. And that's basically the kind of stuff you can normally get into without it being a fuss. For example, if you have like a corporate lifestyle, then it's totally normal for your character to be a part of corporate shindigs and galas and balls and being invited to, you know, premieres and stuff like that. Those are all things that corporates love to do. Corporates are living that lifestyle. If you have a kibble lifestyle, then you would have to buy in to those events. You would have to be invited, you would have to spend money, you would have to do some convincing, and then you can get in without any fuss. And that's basically what the lifestyle portion of the game is all about. It just explains the usual thing that your character gets into, and for it to not be such a weird thing to be involved in. So just to give you guys a little bit of insight on my end, I've played Cyberpunk quite a bit, and the economy is the way it is in the core rulebook, and I was able to play it rules as written. written exactly the way it's written in the book, exactly the way it's talked about in Black Chrome. And because I gained knowledge about how it's run, I was able to make adjustments to the economy that didn't break the game. And now I have my own homebrew style of economy within my game. Things are not as scarce as they would be rules as written, but it doesn't make that big of an impact on the overall game. So I highly recommend that you try it rules as written, try it exactly the way it is given to you, and then you can know how to meld it and mold it in the way that you want. All right, next up in Black Chrome, the final part of the book is Night Markets Expanded. Night Markets is something that was introduced in the core rulebook. It is a main staple mechanic of the Underground. The idea is that these markets pop up, and they're kind of like pop-up flea markets where a bunch of fixers pool their resources and they have one illegal black market event where players and NPCs alike can come by and do their shopping. All kinds of stuff go into a night market, and that's what this portion of the book basically tells you. The book gives you examples of fixers and the night markets that they run, how their booths are handled, security, locations, and etc. There's also wonderful stat blocks for each fixer, so you can inject them right into your game. There's these cool maps that show you exactly how they're laid out. Once again, you could throw that right into your game no matter what. One such example is 3Piece. He is a corporate fixer and he specializes in luxury, tech, and those kinds of things. You get to see exactly how he runs everything. It tells you how he sources his materials, how he keeps them secure, and it gives you an idea of how you can get an invite with 3Piece. Now on the street level, there's Molly Anderson. Once again, you get her stat block, you get her map, and you get to understand what she sells on the street level. It's cyberware, among other things, but cyberware is much of her focus. And of course, there's some other fixers in there that you can use that vary in between. This part of the book is really good for you to be able to try to understand exactly how things are run. So you could run it within your game. You can have your own night market. You can have a set of night markets. It's also interesting to note that there's many reasons why a night market might be broken up. The police might come in, rival fixers, rival gangs, or somebody just trying to make a quick buck. And those are all things that you can inject within your game as well. In fact, the players could be the ones that are breaking up a night market. But it's great to know that this is the norm, the culture within Cyberpunk Red, and to understand how people trade with each other and how night markets exist. Once again, to use in your own game. All right. Thank you so much, Chooms, for watching. Thank you for the support. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.